Hello everybody, Harry here. Today I'd like to go through using Cline, which is an AI assistant and it's a visual code plugin. You can plug it into an AI provider like I'm using AWS Bedrock and choose one of the models available, which was Claude Sonnet 3.5. And what it can do is plan your coding ideas with you and build out your entire project. So this here, what I'm showing you is the prompt I used. It took a little bit of time to get it right, such as like realizing it was getting stuck on using an ampersand and realizing it was getting stuck on creating the React app. So I just did a little bit of that setup for it for this video. But otherwise I went through and described the project and I was able to build this in one shot. It took about 15 minutes of it busy coding and I had a working game. I'll go through it with you. So this is my Space Invader game and I'll show you what the process looked like. Cool, so here I am in Visual Code and I've given the Cline AI my prompt. You can see over here the API cost being used as it sends back and forth tokens. That cost is going to keep going up. At the end I think it only costed about $3. So it's on fast forward and you can see it iterating through using the command line, creating the files and literally building out my project, which is the Space Invader game. So let's see what it does. It should be nearly done with creating my app and then we'll see what it looks like when it actually runs. There you go. And now I had to pause it and I realized it had missed a few little things, like I had to do a little bit of manual configuration and I told it to add this localhost 3000 cause policy to the ASP app, so it doesn't get everything right, but then it goes and it fixes that. And next you're going to see I go to my terminal and I decide to run the app. So from there I start running the app and now we can see what the game looks like. This was my first time opening it up and I was quite happy. I saw that the game was running, I was getting a score. I did notice that the frames kept on resetting every single time I shot the spaceship, so I needed to go back later and we'll show you what that process looked like. Here I'm busy checking, is my score going to persist to the database, because that was one of my requirements. So I put in my name, submit my score, and there you go. You can see I'm busy having a look at my database and I'm seeing that the score was saved. So the API is running correctly and the game is running. Now I'm trying to tell it that the spaceships should only reset once you destroy all of them, not like each time you kill one. And I also thought, let's make the speed increase a little bit as you persist in levels. And I thought, let's see what the game does. So it writes out a bunch of code and run it, and now you can see it completely broke. It managed to completely break its application, so clearly it didn't get that right, and this is kind of the thing you can expect where the AI agent goes and breaks your entire solution. So in the end I realized that the problem could be that you see it still didn't manage to fix the problem. So I tried to give it more instructions. I had about 3 or 4 back and forth saying like, please stop, it's resetting each time. And then eventually I realized it's probably something to do with the React component, which the AI is missing. So you do need to have a little bit of knowledge of how something like React works or your architecture works, because it's not always going to pick up the problem. It was unable to fix this issue. And eventually I realized, oh, it must be that the component is probably resetting each time the score changes. So it says you're absolutely right and apologizes, and now we have the working game. And I felt pretty happy with this. So I enjoyed, now I could put in my scores and play my game. So yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a demo of the game again. So here I am now playing the game. And it's actually pretty fun, although you do have to be careful not to miss them. And it's managing to make the API request, and let's see if I can even get past the first level. There you go. So yeah, there you go. And now let's have a quick jump into like the code and just have a quick little review of the code that it wrote. So we can see it created the React project and it created this ASP.NET Core API with just like your simple setup. And what it has done is it made a fat controller. So it's literally injecting the DB context into the controller, and this is a simple utilitarian usage of code. This you would call this like in the long run, it works and forget about it, right? Nobody's trying to maintain this. But as a developer, I would come in here and probably like build it out in a nice layered way and refactor everything cleanly. But you could obviously give that kind of instruction to the AI. Like I would want to do like create this using TDD and literally observe those rules where you don't write any code until you're fixing a broken test and let it go through that process. And I'm sure you could define that to the Cline AI, and say, build it out with TDD and build it out in this kind of layered architecture in this modular way. But when you just give it the blank instruction, it went and built this simple utilitarian code, and maybe this is what the future looks like, where AI is just generating this kind of utilitarian, it works code. Nobody ever needs to maintain it. The AI takes care of it, and perhaps that's what the future looks like. And I'm sure you'd be able to see the same for the React app. Simple enough, right? You've got your little app, and then it's built out. At least it has built out containers, but you wouldn't want these API fetches within the component. You'd want to be injecting some kind of class and take the API layer away where it's busy pulling in this data and mapping it to a class that's defined for this component, so it can be properly unit tested and not like baked into the component. But again, you could go and you could tell the Cline AI to do that. And I mean, even if we were to open it up now and we could say, please refactor the code, I would like clean architecture in the .NET app and not have fat controllers. And as for React, please create a separate API layer with the fetch requests and map that to a defined class specifically built for the high score and Space Invader game components. What I would say here is in my source control, I would make sure that I'm committed before running this kind of refactoring, because we saw how it went and broke everything when I gave it that task to change things. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have a bumpy road with this command and it doesn't actually manage to build things out correctly. So do like commit your latest changes before letting the AI go wild. And you obviously would want to compare differences. But yeah, what it gets stuck on is it kind of loses context of where it is in the terminal. So it tries to run a command and then it's not in the correct folder that it thinks it is in, and then it has an error. And what's bad is sometimes it doesn't realize it had an error, so it thinks it's good and it continues, and then it just gets completely stuck in a loop where it thinks that one of its steps was successful but it wasn't. So this has been quite a struggle. It's gone up from $5 to $12, and at the moment it's using too many tokens on my Bedrock server. So let's see if it manages to finish. I have my doubts as to whether the solution's even going to build at this stage, but let's have a look. So jumping in and looking at the code, I can see that the AI didn't quite like grasp the concept of how it should be refactored here, where we're still seeing quite fat controllers. It's performing things like editing the context inside the HTTP method. In some places it's trying to use the score service, but we don't have any dependency inversion on the score service, so this creates like a tightly coupled mess. So it seems like the best way to go is it didn't is to start off with your planning and make sure like it properly understands the architecture you want to use, because it struggles to go back and refactor things, from my experience. So yeah, the solution's not currently building, but I'm not gonna keep fighting it. I think we like pushed it slightly to its limit in terms of like expecting a quick result. When going back and fixing everything, it really struggled. But yeah, that gives you a good idea. So cool. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.